Hello, hello. I'm excited for today's episode because we are going to do things a little bit differently than we usually do around here. So, as you might know, I am currently out on maternity leave by the time that this episode is airing. So, I am pre recording this episode at the end of August. And this episode was inspired by a reel that I posted recently where I shared that I have made $829,845 from a single course. Now, 829K from a single course is absolutely incredible, right? And this was done over the course of nearly 4 years. So, definitely not an overnight success by any means, but that's pretty amazing, right? To have built one course. I do update it, I add lessons, I tweak lessons, all of that. But that's pretty incredible, right? I'm super proud of that. And that post did really well. And I got a ton of questions about courses, digital products, scaling, and that's really what inspired today's episode. So I asked in Instagram stories for any of your questions, and we are just going to do a rapid fire Q&A about scaling beyond one-on-one therapy. And I'm just going to go ahead and go through and answer all of your questions from my Instagram stories here. And I hope that this will be really helpful and useful and interesting to you. All right, so first up, how to know when is the best time to create a course or group coaching program. So, in general, I would recommend waiting to do this until your one on one therapy caseload is full, right? In general, it's always going to be easier for you to sell one on one than it is for you to sell a course or a group coaching program. I think that it's just easier for people to see the value in one on one. And you can typically do it at a higher price point, right? And so you don't need as much volume. So for instance, right, if you're seeing therapy clients at $250 a session, each person that you see is $1,000 a month. Presumably those people are staying for months and months and months of therapy versus maybe a course you sell it for $300 or $500 or $1,000, right? You're just going to need a lot more people because each person's only buying it once in order to make that same amount of revenue. So I do always recommend filling your caseload first before you actually decide to start a course or a group coaching program. And in general, too, I think that it's helpful to think about like what are people asking you about. If people are asking you for information on something, if you're getting a lot of GMs about something, if you're getting a lot of comments, that might be a good signal that this is time for you to launch another offer and to support people in a deeper way. Next question, is it worth creating a course if you only have a small following? I would say yes, but it might not be as profitable because, again, the goal with courses is really volume, right? So, at this point, in order for me to have made $829,000 from a course, I've sold over 800 of them, right? And so that's a lot of volume over the past 4 years. And that wouldn't be possible if I didn't have a large audience, right? And so I do think that it is helpful if you're somebody who's looking to scale with courses to think about the fact that there is a trade off there, right? So, yes, you will have less time in one on one sessions, right? Kind of making money in a more passive way because you're pre recording the course and you are not having to show up and deliver it live every time. But the trade off is that you're going to spend more time marketing because you're always going to need to be sending more people to the sales page. You're going to need to be enrolling more people into the course. And again, we're starting back at zero every month versus with therapy, your clients are hopefully being retained, right? You're hopefully not needing to fill every spot every month, right? Maybe you have a few people discharge, you bring in a new few people, but you're in general able to have some consistency in your caseload. So I think it's worth starting when you have a small following if that's a goal of yours and if your caseload is already full. But know that in order to really have a profitable course that feels good to you long term, you are going to need to grow your following in order to make that happen. And again, I want to emphasize that these results are 4 years in the making because, you know, I've probably launched this course a dozen times now, and I have it for sale in between launches as well. And so, when I started, I had a much smaller following. I had only a few hundred people on my email list. I was close to 10,000 followers on my Sit with Kelly account, but it was not tailored to the audience, right? So that account, I talk a lot about anxiety. And this course that I made a ton of money from is helping therapists grow their Instagram page and build six-figure private practices. And so, you know, if I hadn't created the course, if I hadn't continued to sell it, we would never be where I am today. And so it's worth doing when you have a smaller following. But again, just long term, you're going to want to grow that following. Okay, so how to choose a topic. Next question. So we talked about this one a little bit, but in general, I think it's really important to listen to your audience. We want to think about like, what is it that your people want? What is it that your people need? Any opportunities that you can create to get feedback from them, even better, right? So like this could be as simple as polls and stories. It could be question boxes, Q&As like this. It could be paying attention to your DMs, to your comments. Maybe you incentivize people and ask them to take a quick survey and you raffle off some coffee gift cards or something, right? But in general, you want to get your ideas from your audience. They are going to tell you what they need help with. And that is a really, really good sign that you are on the right track with a good topic. You can also listen to your therapy clients. Obviously, we don't want to create a dual relationship with them. We don't want to sell therapy clients our courses. We don't want to enroll therapy clients in group coaching programs. It would be very different if it was a therapy group, but we cannot have coaching and therapy coinciding for our clients. But in general, if you're serving like the same population, you can think about what are the things that they need help with? What are the things you're spending a lot of time doing psychoeducation on in session? In general, too, people pay for a solution to their problems. Nobody wants to take a course, right? Like, I think that anybody listening here, if you had a choice between me handing you a six-figure private practice and all of the skills needed to maintain it, or you having to sit through and watch 12 hours of videos, you would pick the former, right? You would be like, just give me the outcome. What people want is that outcome. And so the course is like a means to that end. But it is really important to think about like, what is it that people actually want to accomplish? And then how can you build a course to help them get there? All right, next question. So somebody asked, where do you start making freebies, a free class? So in general, I do think it's helpful to test profitability with something free. Because if you can't get people to download a free guide on the topic or watch a free training or watch a free podcast episode, it's going to be very challenging to get them to pay hundreds of dollars and spend hours of their time going through a course, right? And so I think that a free guide is a great place to start and seeing, is there general interest in this topic from people, right? So like that's how I started, even this podcast episode was the reel that I shared. And I'll go ahead and link that in the show notes too, in case you're curious. It was a paid partnership that I did with Teachable where I host my course. And I like created a free guide with digital product ideas for therapists. And it did incredible. And so I'm like, oh, people want to hear more about this. Let me record a podcast episode on it, right? Because my audience told me this is something that they're interested in. And so now I know it's easier now that I've had, hundreds of people download this free guide. Now I'm like, oh, okay, people are probably willing to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes hearing me chat about this. We'll see how long this episode ends up being, right? And so we kind of want to think about it in that way. Where can we start with something small and see, is there interest? Is there engagement around this? Is this something that people are wanting? Are you getting questions on it? And just kind of go from there before investing all this time and energy into building out a course. Okay, next question. Are there different ways to structure it? Yes, for sure. And I'm going to actually combine this with the next question we have here, which is how long should it be and how do you price it? So in general, like people don't want hours and hours and hours of curriculum. Again, they want the outcome that the course is going to help them achieve. And so we want to structure our course in a way that makes sense to get people that ideal outcome. So if you can structure with just, modules that people can watch on their own, and that's enough for them to get the desired result, then amazing, do that. If people need activities, add them. If they need worksheets, add them. If they need homework, add it. If they need community, if they need random calls, you really want to think about what is it that people need to achieve the desired result here. If they need scripts, right? Like whatever it is, we want to really think about what is the end goal and then how can we walk people from point A to point B. And that should really be what you're thinking about when you're like, okay, how long does this need to be? What do I need to put in this? What bonuses should I offer? Is it's less about like having the perfect link that's going to be super profitable or something, and more about the outcome. Because if you can help people get the desired result, the thing that you're promising they're going to do as a result of your course, that is what's going to be what helps you sell it long term and is going to make it wildly successful, right? Like I have the best testimonials from therapists who've gone through the Private Practice Academy bundle. And that really helps me to sell the Private Practice Academy bundle. I also get tons and tons and tons of word of mouth referrals. So I hear from therapists like every day that they joined because somebody recommended the program to them, right? And so that is super, super helpful in terms of growing and scaling my course. And so it's less about like the hours or exactly how you structure it and more about the results that you are helping people to get. In general, though, I would say like a mini course tends to be like under 90 minutes. And those like $100, $200 max. And then, if you're trying to think about like a signature program, that might be something like 3, 4, 5 hours to start. Maybe it is longer. My program is like 12 hours of course curriculum, but when I started, it was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. And I've built on it over time and have really expanded it and increased the price, increased the outcomes, all of that. So just something to sort of think about there. Like you do want to have enough information that it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, that's exactly what she says in her reels. Like I'm not really getting anything from this. You want to go deeper for sure. But you don't need to just like add information to add information. In general, people want to get the desired result in the least amount of time that they can. So something to sort of keep in mind there. And then in terms of how do you price it, right? Somebody else asked, how do you know if the price of your course is good enough, not too high, not too low? When you start off, I would think about pricing that can really feel like a no-brainer, especially when you don't have testimonials. So maybe you price it, I don't know, at $1,000 and give people 50% off and it's $500, or you price it at $500 and you give people 50% off and it's $250, right? You want to make it make sense for people. You want it to feel like, of course, I'm going to invest in this. So when I first started selling the Private Practice Academy bundle, it was on sale for $597. Now the program is $1,397, and sometimes I'll do discounts as low as $997, but that is like the absolute lowest that I ever sell that program for. And I only do that like a few times a year. And so, the price has increased over time as I've gotten more confident that, I can help people achieve their outcomes. So initially I was just sort of framing the course as like, grow your therapy practice with Instagram. Now I'm like, build a 6-figure practice with Instagram. I have tons of testimonials to back it up. The course has gone from 4 or 5 hours to 12 plus hours of curriculum. And so I feel really good about that. But I started off at a lower price point and then I added to the course as it went on. I increased the price at one point in time, and that has sort of like made sense to me there. I think you can always raise the price, but you don't want to lower the price, if that makes sense. So, like, it's good to have sales where you do lower the price, but you don't want to like decrease the total price over time, because in general, that leaves like a bad taste in people's mouth when they see the price dropping. I don't know. It doesn't feel good from like a marketing perspective. So I would rather you start lower for your first launch and then know, okay, this is like a test here, right? The main goal is not to make a ton of money the first launch. The main goal is to collect testimonials, to see what works, to see if people are resonating with this, to, put something out into the world, to get people through the program, to get feedback, right? That is really kind of like the main goal. And so we want to price it high enough that like it conveys that you're confident. It conveys that this is a valuable program that people are going to achieve results from, but not so high that it makes people like second guess whether or not it's going to be worth it or if they should join. So it's a little, there's not an exact formula here, but that's sort of how I try and think about things when I work with therapists on this. All right, platform, somebody asked. So I have created multiple courses throughout my career. And, the one that I shared in this reel was Private Practice Academy Bundle. I've always done them through Teachable. I think the Teachable is amazing. This episode is not sponsored by them. The reel I'm talking about was, though. It's just very simple. It's very easy to use. It's very low cost. It can scale with you. there's like sort of like higher tiers as you grow that make more sense to sort of add on, but you can start off, really, really, really affordable. I'm going to actually include my affiliate link in the show notes if you are interested in checking them out. I always appreciate when you support me by using that. But again, this episode is not sponsored. In general, I do think that you want a course platform where you can, like, that's designed to host a course, right? So, like, if you are selling a course for hundreds of dollars, you should not just be giving people access to like a Google Drive with video lessons. You want something where they can see a video, they can see slides below it, they can sort of like move through the curriculum, they can see as they've completed a lesson, right? Like, you want it to feel professional. And that is just like part of the cost of doing business. So whether it's Teachable or another platform, I would definitely recommend seeking out like a platform that's specifically designed to host courses. All right. Next question. How do you find something that's profitable that hasn't been done yet? I think that that is a very unrealistic bar to hold yourself to. And that's not how I would decide what course you're going to create, right? There are so many people in this world, so many business owners on Instagram, so many therapists. There's probably somebody who's created absolutely everything, right? Like, I'm not even in a super specific niche, the only course that you can buy that helps therapists grow a six-figure practice on Instagram, right? There's lots of practice building courses, there's lots of marketing courses for therapists, there's even a handful of Instagram courses for therapists, right? And so it's less about finding something that has never been done and more so about finding something that people want from you, right? Like, you have your own unique perspective, your own unique background. There's reasons why people pick me over another business coach for therapists. And I think it's about just like not getting in your way and not setting that as the standard, and instead thinking about like, where can I provide value? How can I show my story? Your own successes, I think, are often like the best ideas, right? So if there's something that you've personally done in your life, that can be a great thing to teach on and to teach a course on. If it's something you've helped, dozens and dozens of clients with, that's amazing. And so I would think more so about like, again, what is it that people are wanting from you? What can you help people achieve? And then really leading into that as sort of like the metric that it's going to be profitable. All right, next question. Somebody asked, where do you find the mental capacity? I love that question. So, you know, it has evolved over time. So when I first started this course, I was fully like building it based off of grit and hustle, honestly. I was still seeing like 20, 25 therapy clients a week. I was building the course, outside of that, oftentimes in the evenings, the weekends. And I was really putting my all into it because I was motivated. I knew that this was something I wanted to teach on. I had been doing some like one-on-one Instagram coaching with therapists who were reaching out to me, even when I wasn't like actively selling that by any means. And so I knew this was something like my audience was wanting from me. And I was just really excited to do it. I was in my like mid to late 20s at the time. My husband and I were getting ready to get married at the time. I was pretty new to like being in private practice, and Instagram was like less than a year old. And so everything still felt really new and exciting. And I honestly just like grinded and created the course. I did have some help. So I had my sister was my virtual assistant at the time, and she helped me with making slides. So I would actually outline like everything that went into the slide, and then she would create the slide in Canva and make it pretty so I could record it and upload the videos and all that to Teachable. I tried to get some help where I could in terms of streamlining the process, but I was doing things very on the cheap, very hustle and grinding focused. Now it's a little bit easier. One, because the course is already made. Yes, there are like updates and things I do to it. So in September, I actually am adding. It's weird because I'm recording this in August, but you're listening to it in December. So I'm like, I don't know if I should use present, future, or past tense. Anyways, in September of 2025, uh, 25 new lessons were added to the Private Practice Academy bundle. And so that took a lot of work, right? Like, that's like almost creating a whole nother course at that point. And so I don't want to act like, a course is super passive income that once you do it once, you're never going to have to do it again. Like, I knew there were things that had changed with how therapists should be approaching Instagram. And so I knew that it was my responsibility, in order to help people keep getting good results, to create new lessons that were going to help therapists navigate those changes, right? So it's always going to grow and evolve. But I think at this point, it's easier for me because the framework is already there, because I'm not starting from scratch. I also have a lot of like team support. My therapy caseload is much less. Things have shifted because I'm making a ton of money with this course. I'm able to invest in team. I'm able to have less one-on-one time, right? And so, capacity sort of opens up in other ways. All right, next question. Should I hire a business coach to help put it together and market it? I think that's really up to you. I have a one-on-one business coach now who I've worked with for I think like 2-ish years now, and it's been absolutely amazing. But prior to that, I did not have a business coach. I created this course on my own. I sold it on its own. I launched it. I created like an evergreen funnel on my own, and that worked well. And then at some point I decided like I wanted more support. I wanted to scale faster. I wanted somebody to bounce ideas off of. And so, I invested in that support. So I think it's really up to you. If you're somebody that's like, I'm a go-getter, I can DIY it, I can figure it out, I want to sort of like keep my profit margins really high and get as much of this like back into my bank account as possible, do it on your own and sort of see how it goes. If you're somebody who's like, no, like I need the accountability, I need somebody to bounce this off of, I don't really know what I'm doing, I want somebody to walk me through it. I'm okay if that means that, I'm investing some of this profit back into my business. Hire a business coach. I think that they can be absolutely wonderful. I will share. So I do intensives with one-on-one coaching clients, and that's something I do plan to open up in January. So I will include the waitlist for that in the show notes here. But intensives can be a great way to sort of like have a middle ground there. So we meet for 90 minutes with a one-on-one coaching session. And then it's followed up by 4 days of messaging support in Slack. And so instead of like investing in a business coach where you're paying month after month after month after month as you get this off the ground, we can kind of work together, like come up with a profitable topic, lay out a plan, lay out a framework, give you some feedback on like sales page copy, that kind of thing. So if that's something you're interested in, I will include the link for that waitlist here because I should be opening up spots in the next month or so. All right. And then the last question that we have for today is, what are the key ingredients to success? What are the best do's and don'ts for marketing? So I think the biggest key to success is like having a course that can get people a desired outcome. And that is the best thing that you can do for your marketing. It's going to help you feel more confident selling it. It's going to help you like get good word of mouth referrals. It's going to help you get good testimonials, which is going to help you sell it. Um, and it's also going to like shape how you talk about the course, right? So like again, nobody cares how many modules are in it. Nobody cares how long it is or how many worksheets you're going to give them. That is not what you should be focusing on in your marketing. What you want to focus on is the outcome that people are desiring, right? What is the dream that you are selling? What are the pain points you're helping them to get rid of? How can we showcase that with your own story, with student testimonials, all of that? When we can focus on that, that is what's really going to sell your course or your program. And so that's what I would really think about is like, how can I help people to get the best, absolute best results from this? And then how can I use those to market it and get more people into the program? All right. I hope that this was a fun podcast episode for you. I'm curious how you liked this style of doing just like rapid fire Q&A. If you want to send me a DM on Instagram and let me know, I'm curious if I should be doing more episodes like this, or if you kind of prefer when I'm like teaching on a topic and sort of like flowing a little bit more. But yeah, let me know what you thought of this episode. And I'm excited to see your courses if that's something that you're interested in with scaling beyond one-on-one therapy.